This is the Bottom Shot Podcast.
Pulvereri is up high. They come out of turn number 4. Stutter between the turns. The fans come to their feet.
It is Ted Christopher still in command. Keith Rocco right there on his back bumper.
Bringing Stafford Motor Speedway's past and present together.
They are side by side running for the finish line. It's a photo finish.
Deep into turn number 3. He goes in deeper than most. Christopher is in trouble. It is Keith Rocco to slingshot to the bottom, and he'll take down the win.
A Stafford Motor Speedway production where we will hear from the personalities from the past and present that found success on the legendary half-mile oval.
The scoreboard shows goose eggs as they wait. It's Pulvereri. He wins it by inches over Richie Evans in the Spring Sizzler.
Unbelievable chain of events.
Now, here are your hosts, Paula Root and Kyle Rickey.
Welcome back to the Bottom Shot Podcast here from the Stafford Motor Speedway. Kyle Rickey joined by Paula Root. And Paul, we have a treat for our viewers here as we continue to roll into our second season of this show. About to talk, or actually already talked, to a driver that is very established here, almost 2 decades at the Stafford Motor Speedway.
Yeah, Todd Owen just came on the show. What a excellent guest. I mean, we went deep into his career and his life.
On and off the racetrack.
On and off the racetrack. I think the listeners are going to enjoy this whole podcast. I'd say it's one of the best podcasts yet.
A lot of stories from how he started at Riverside Park to being in a helicopter after a bad accident here at Stafford, to all of his race wins. He's overcome a lot, and it's going to be an amazing show.
Yeah, it was a great story. This is episode number 4 here on the docket. So hope everyone's enjoying the new season, and we have a bunch of additional guests lined up, and hope you enjoy the episode.
Let's jump right into it. Todd Owen joins us here on the Bottom Shot. And we are joined now by one of the fixtures of the Stafford Motor Speedway for going on 2 decades now. Hard to believe. At least on and off. Todd Owen joins us. Todd, welcome to the Bottom Shot Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Start at the beginning?
Yeah, I'll start at the top. I mean, there's a lot to talk about from the beginning of your career all the way to now. Tell us how it got going. The first time at a racetrack, in a race car, just go from the get-go.
Well, how it really started was my father sponsored a modified at Riverside Park. He was a truck driver, had trucking business. Really wasn't a mechanical guy on race cars. Just knew a guy who knew a buddy of his that raced, and so he sponsored him. And I actually started out by going to his shop and cleaning his cube van. I was a high cube manager, they called me. I was too young to get into pit area back then. You had to be 16 to actually get into pit area. You couldn't just sign a waiver or anything. It was there was rules back then. So I would actually go to the shop. I'd clean the shop. I'd clean the cube van, put tools away. And that's kind of how I got started. And at the time, I was riding horses.
Really?
Yeah. My father owned.
You were a jockey?
I don't know about a jockey, but more the horse show kind of thing. My father was engaged to a girl that owned a horse farm. So obviously that came with it, the horses.
Yeah.
So then it was one day I wanted to give up the one horse for horsepower, for multiple horses. I wanted to try racing, know. So I started at Riverside Park and what they strictly stocks, which is comparison to the Dare stock here at Stafford.
So who was the driver that you kind of were
Brian
helping out?
Schofield.
Okay.
Wow.
And was it just like you wanted to be around the race cars? You need something to do?
Yeah, it was, I came from I wouldn't say a broken marriage, but my dad and my mom were divorced, so I'd see my dad on weekends, and I think it was like the cool thing to do. Like when you saw your dad, you went to the racetrack, and, my mom brought me to the races some too, but mostly it was being around the whole shop environment and the guys, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed what it took to actually get to the racetrack and all the parts of it. And, and Brian, he was a very low-budgeted team. I mean, he actually ran what they call the 311 or a 340 bonus at Riverside, which was like running against tour mods with an SK. And whoever finished the highest won that night.
Okay.
So it would be him, Wade Cole.
Wow.
Eric Leclerc, I think, ran back. I mean that's 1990, I think, 90, something like that, those years.
So you mean to tell me you never snuck into the pits before you were 16?
Never
I feel
did.
like everybody on the show has said,
Not at Riverside, you didn't.
Really?
You did not sneak in the pits.
Wow.
No. I mean, we would go to Monadnock, and they had kind of a little bit more of a lax.
Live free or die.
I guess, yeah. They would just want anybody in there. But no, Riverside was very strict about it. You'd actually have to show like ID and and probably we didn't really know people back then. So, you have to have kind of the backdoor kind of thing to get into, certain places sometimes. So I didn't really have that.
And so let's go to the first car. So you were 16. You bought a car. How'd you pay for it? How'd you put, where'd
like
you
most
get
kids
the car?
in racing, right? Thank God their fathers can help you.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, this isn't like a sport where you can go buy a baseball and a glove and a bat and go play. You have to have financial support from whether it be a father, sponsors.
Of course.
But most people, it's their family that helps them get into it.
Yeah.
So you have to be fortunate enough to have that. And, my story was way before go-karts. Didn't have I didn't know anything about quarter midgets. I knew nothing about that kind of stuff. So my racing career started at 16 when I got my driver's.
In a full car.
When you got your driver's license.
Yep.
Not 12-year-old kids running, super late model races nowadays. It's crazy.
Or big blocks.
Yeah, it's insane. So we bought a car from a guy at Monadnock, actually, and we went to the racetrack knowing absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
When I mean nothing, I knew nothing. We walked down to the tire truck. We picked out 4 round tires, which happened to be 4 left side tires, and put them on the car and proceeded to struggle.
And this is at the park.
This is at Riverside. So my father had been around racing, but probably like a lot of fathers around racing, they don't know anything about race cars. They around it and they love hanging around it, but they don't know what stagger really is or that kind of thing.
So do you remember like your first laps in that car? And what kind of car was it? Do you remember what kind of car it was?
Yeah, it was a Monte Carlo. I think like a 79 Monte Carlo or something. My first laps were, let's go back a little bit. I was lucky enough, my father sent me to a racing school in Florida over the winter before that.
Oh, okay.
So I actually took some laps in a race car, which was like a Pro Stocks late model kind of car down there.
Where was that?
Actually, New Smyrna.
Oh, wow.
I did take a couple laps at New. Yeah, and it was here. I was, kids. There's no fear. We're gonna go out. We're gonna step on. It was fast, and they made a mistake of saying none of you guys really show you want to be real race car drivers because you aren't really pushing it hard. Well, I proceeded to go out the next time and spin it out and didn't crash.
But you found the line.
But you were
that was my last time. He said, "You're
hooked?
done with that." The instructor said, "That's your class. That was it.
Seen enough.
Yep, that's enough."
Were you immediately just this is it?
Yep, just for me. Yeah.
Wow.
So went to Riverside, and I don't know how the first race went. Riverside had 45 strictly stocks a week.
Yeah.
So if you qualified for a race, that was amazing. And I think I did qualify. I don't think I ever not qualified. And then proceeded to try to learn. And the only way to learn was to meet the right people, to find information, because it wasn't out there. There wasn't even people that you could pay to set up your car. There wasn't the Bob Phils, the people like that you could bring your car to. I mean, he was around, but not really. Not like it is. It's so available today to get help. So if you wanted to learn, you had to go find help.
So how'd you do that though? Like how do you? You're a guy who kind of like one group. Do you just start there and you just kind of continue on?
Well, again, luckily, my father knew a lot of people, which he didn't know anything about race cars, but he knew a lot of people. So we had met people from the racing business, and we actually ended up hooking up with a guy from Summers. His name was Timmy Smith, who ran here in a late model, and he actually started helping us. It was kind of just helped us scale, and they got a couple of things like that, and we kept getting a little better, and then we started to get our rhythm, and we actually won my first year, which was an amazing accomplishment for, it was just a lot of cars. Like if you could win one week and not qualify the next, that's how many cars there were.
It's awesome.
How much success do you find before you make the next step up to the late model, which was, a couple years later?
Well, we raced I totaled that car the first year, at the end of the year. So we built a brand new Camaro, which Camaros back then were the car to have. Timmy Smith built me a new car, and we won some races. It was really fast. But we went through my third year. We went through a struggle with our motor program. We were struggling. Like, we were really slow. And we searched was it me? I actually parked my car for a while, went and drove for somebody else because it's just we just didn't know what was going on. And we ended up finding that the valve springs were bad in the motor. And we changed. That was it. Something stupid like that. We changed valve springs. We ended up hooking up with Norman from Precision Automotive, which was a very, there's a whole nother story. I went to work for Butch at Riverside after high school. He helped me get in with Precision. So, I mean, the story goes on, and it's just knowing the right people that can help you. So we kept getting better and better and better. Not doing great, but just improving. So that's like, once you start improving and you win a couple times, it's just like
confidence.
But it's putting the bait out there. Like, you want more of that. So you just want to work harder. And I wanted to work harder. And if I wasn't racing my own car, I was going to Riverside Park and helping Butch on his car. And, he built cars for the Carrolls at the park. So we would, I just want to be around racing all the time and try to learn as much as I possibly could.
So you just touched on that. You said you worked for a Butch out of school. I didn't know that. Talk us through. Were you working on cars?
I graduated high school. Well, I guess I should.
Who is Butch? Let's start there.
Butch is.
And he'll come back up in the story down the road. Yeah, he'll come back up.
Butch is the brains of what we do in our shop today. He is. He had a Pro Stock company. They built Pro Stocks. It was named Chassis Pro. That's where the Chassis Pro comes from. I'm gonna tell you what. I am not an engineer. I do not design these cars. I can weld. I can fabricate. Yeah. But he is the one that should take all the credit for what our cars do. He is the smartest race car guy, probably in the area. He just lies low. So
he's a guy that if you see him in the pit, you would have no idea. He's just a guy, just there.
Just a guy, and he'll tell you. And if you get to know him, he'll tell you what he thinks. I had some hard years with him. He taught me a lot, but he also he taught me what the best was and what you had to do to be the best or to be at the top. So I would actually put between him and Timmy Smith were my two people that taught me the most about racing for sure.
And so out of school, you go to work for him.
I do. I go to work for him.
That's your first job after high school?
Yep. He needed somebody. At that time, there was 3 cars that they were running at Riverside. And then they were doing another. They had 4 cars there. They were running one at Thompson on Wednesdays that Ricky Fuller would drive. So he just needed somebody to help basically wash them. I would go every week. I put them up in 4 jack stands, and I would pressure wash those cars every week. That's kind of, but it was just to say that you were able to get paid. I think it was $250 a week or whatever it was, crazy. But I got paid to go work on race cars. So I did that for probably 4 months. And then my father passed away, and I don't know if that was then yet. I'm trying to. The timeline is just all over the place, but it was time to go get a real job. So.
You did it for 4 months. He said, "All right."
Well, after the race season got done, there was no need to.
Okay.
I was like a summer help.
Gotcha.
The Carrolls who on Riverside, I was like a guy that ran the roller coaster.
You were
once
the
the season got done, man, I was gone. So. But it was an awesome experience. Just I think I learned more that summer than probably ever, just because I saw what it took to, and Eddie didn't tear up a whole lot of stuff, but boy, the old man sure did. So you get to learn how to put, he's the greatest guy ever, but he was a super nice guy, but he tore up some race cars. So you get to learn how to
put
it back together. Yep.
Ended up winning a championship at the park in 96?
96.
So late model.
What happened was we were going to build a brand new strictly stock motor because we had, Norman from Precision finally came. It was helping me out. And you had to be on a select list for him to help you. He didn't just help anybody. Right. You had to pick, be picked. And then all of a sudden, what happened was Timmy Smith had a late model that he had built for his brother, I think it was. Well, that deal fell through, and there was a car sitting there. So he said, "Well, why don't we take this car to Claremont they had an open race at the end of the year?" So we went there, and I don't remember, finished 10th maybe or something. So on the way home, he'd say, "Well, if you're going to build a motor, why don't you just build a late model motor and move up?" And at that time, seeing how the year before that we struggled so much, and my confidence was down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. And he says, well, I think you're ready. So I made this deal happen. And my father and at that time, my biggest crew member, Frank Collins, was so adamant that I was making a mistake, that I wasn't ready. I was going to fall on my face. And then we went out and finished second my first race. So we led almost every lap except the last, I think. And G. Perry got me.
Yep.
Because he was like he was like the old guy, like me now.
Yeah.
He beat me by looking in my mirror, and I just saw him coming, and I just overdrove it, and he got by me. So, and then from there on, we had great success in the late model. It was a lot of fun. We were great. We had a lot of good runs, and then obviously won the championship the second year.
And so talk to the listeners a bit about the difference between that track and here. It was a tiny place. Like, a lot of our listeners have never even been there before. And it closed in 99. It was a quarter mile, weird little place compared to Stafford, which is a big track. Kind of talk us through the difference in driving there.
Well, I will tell you, first thing, it was the cleanest racing you'll ever see. I mean, you could race side by side for lap after lap. And, yes, there was wrecks. There was incidents because, obviously, you're within an inch of people all the time. Mm-hmm. But people just had respect for each other. It was, completely – not that I'm saying here there's a lack of respect, but when I came here, that was the biggest thing. It was just different. It was people that didn't see Riverside and see what it was about missed out on an awesome experience. And it wasn't even the racing itself. It was no matter how you did that day, and you were, which I thought was a really cool thing, you had to park with your competitors.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that was you had to park next to the guy. Every pro stock guy was parked in one area. Every modified guy was parked in one area. So if you had a bad race with that guy, he was probably 2 spots next to you. You had to deal with him. Where there's half the SK field I don't even see on a Friday night unless I see him on a racetrack. And then after the races,
there might be something to
no, I always said that.
Parking map.
You have to. You don't even know your competitors. You don't know their team members. Yeah. You don't know who they're. I don't even, like I said, you get on the other side of the building, you don't even know who's there to race until you go on in the heat races. Which is different. I mean, obviously there's more cars here. There's more area. So. And after the races, people would come down. The fans were allowed to come down in the stands, or from the stands to the pit area. Everybody would hang around, have their little cookout or whatever. Everybody did it. So at the end of the races, the pro stock guys were all hanging out with the pro stock guys. So it was kind of cool. That part of it was, you had some long nights. There was a lot of sun coming up nights, and then you'd go to the bar across the street. Not until I was 21, of course.
Of course.
You'd watch the races again because they'd have them on video.
Yep. Really?
So if you had a bad experience with somebody, you had to go watch the video.
Wait, they had that night's events playing. Wow, I love that.
Yeah, so
that's awesome.
KGM would have them, and
Kenny Meisenhower.
So you'd go over there and you just,
oh shoot, I gotta watch this crap again.
Or you'd say, oh, I didn't touch you, and you'd go, yeah, you did, and everybody would scream. So it was, that part was cool. It was different than here. Here, races get over, gone. People go out to the parking lot, and a couple guys have their hangouts, but not like that. So that was
it's a different era, too. Totally different era.
And the Strictly Stocks back then back in the Strictly Stock day, we raced 45 times. I mean, they raced Sundays too.
Really?
Thrill shows and
everything
that they did.
45 times a year.
I can't even remember, but it was.
That's awesome.
All you do is race. It was, and then you come back Sunday. And so you get to the racetrack, so. The night, Strictly Stocks would practice during the day. So you get there at, 12 o'clock, and your practice was 2 to 4 or whatever it was, and then we'd qualify early before anybody got there. Yep. But, you would get to the pit area at 10 in the morning and just hang out there for the day. It was no rush. I mean, you get here on Friday night at 4 o'clock, you're hustling.
Yeah.
You hustle from the time you get – that's one thing about Stafford. There's no downtime. From the time you get here to the time you go home, you're hustling.
I mean, we talk about it a lot, and it's such a different, I don't really remember that time in the sport where there isn't a rush to get the show in, because now if we're on the track after 11 o'clock, even at 10 o'clock, we get beaten up by the fans for having a late show.
So one thing I will say, we were done by 9:30 every week. That's one thing.
Really?
Ben Dodge would beat adamant. You were done at
He ran a
9:30.
tight show wherever he worked.
And he could
was
make
tight.
the rain stop.
Yeah.
When I
Ben
could tell
is going to
you-
be coming on the podcast down the
awesome.
road, so
That's
we'll have
great.
to
Oh, yeah.
to hear about telling Todd Owen to get his butt in gear and get in
Well,
line.
That is a true story. That's funny you say that. He pulled me into his trailer one day, my early days. I think it might have been my first year. And, like most kids, you work on your car, you get all dirty, trying to hustle to get to the racetrack. I didn't have a lot of help. I really had no help. So I would be, like, dirty, grungy looking. So I get to after a driver's meeting, he pulls me into his office, and he says, I think you got a lot of talent. He says, you seem like a good kid. He says, but you look like a bum. Exact words. And we still talk about this story to this day. So he says, I understand that you got to work on your car. I understand that you got to, do most of it yourself or whatever the case is. But he says, before you come to the track, shave. And I will tell you, I shaved today because I knew if you ever saw this, you'd be mad.
That's funny.
You got to shave and just have a clean shirt on. He said, because you never know who's going to watch you and who's going to see you.
That's
Somebody
true.
that wants you to drive for them is not going to want to see some grungy old or grungy kid looking like a bum.
He was about, and we have it on the back straight away here, welcome to the show. He was about the show.
Oh,
and, I remember seeing video of him on the front stretch, with the jacket on and the cane. And
the girls, the modified tour races and the bush races when they came, you sat in the stands just to watch the show of the pre-race.
Right.
The race was whatever it was, but
sure.
He made you, and even those nights, if you won, the Strictly Stock guy would get a 4-foot trophy. Like he would make everybody special that night. It was a night for everybody. Yep. So, he was definitely, and still is.
It's so
awesome.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. His story is incredible for what he's lived his whole life for auto racing also.
Yeah.
Coming up later this season here on the Bottom Shot Podcast.
We're all over the place here.
No, it's good because I think that ties in great because Ben is such an important part to the show here at Stafford because we kind of do the same thing where, if you come here on a Friday night and you get a win, you should feel like you just conquered the world because you did. You did. It's so hard to win. So the moment you pull into victory lane,
it
should
be
a
place
celebration
in the world to win.
Yeah.
By far.
So that's a good transition. So the park closes in '99. Yeah.
Which it had closed, but I had come here before that.
So were you just kind of coming here every now and then, or was it a full-time transition?
Well, I had raced here going back to the late model days. We had built the late model to come here, me and Timmy Smith. And I think as you guys have seen it, like twice maybe I came here and raced it.
Yeah, it was.
And
it
was a money thing. Didn't have the money to do it, and I think that year I was maybe at one of my championships, so we were kind of focused on that, and just. Then I moved up to the pro stock. So the car kind of got put to the side or whatever happened to it. And I had a guy come in my shop one day, and this is the guy. So this gray-bearded guy named Larry Litwin comes in my shop, or my cooker. I used to keep my cars down at my workshop. Comes in his shop, not very friendly, says, I want to build a pro stock for Stafford. I want everything brand new. Get it together and give me a call. Turns around and walks out.
Did you know the guy?
No. I'm like, excuse me? Like, we talked a little bit more than that. It was a little bit more than that. But
just a random
guy. Basically, I never met him. I didn't know who he was. So I actually had to call people around to do a backup on him. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
So he was legit. He owned a construction company that worked for the utility companies. And we built a brand new car and brand new motor. And came here, I think that was 99. 99. Maybe it was 99, right?
Well, was it the year your first career pro stock victory was 99?
It was 99. So it's, I guess the same year Riverside closed, right?
Okay.
That was so we were running double duty. We were running here and Stafford. Or here and Riverside, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So we built this brand new car, and we bring it to the boat show, or camping show, or something. And I had a family member of yours, never met him before, and say, geez, another black car, huh? Well, nice to meet you. That's how I was introduced to Stafford Speedway.
I don't even want to. Let's not name names, or we're gonna have to bleep the names off.
I won't name it. But that's how. So that was my introduction to Stafford.
Yeah.
So we had come here. I had never really, ran here twice, but I never really even watched races here. Because I don't know. When you raced Riverside, you got your cars done on Friday nights.
Yeah.
You loaded it up. You went and raced on Saturday. You never So we came here. We were fast right out of the box. We had a good car and good motor and everything.
You talk about the vibe at the park. What was the vibe at Stafford then when you came here? Was it just was it totally different? Emptiness.
Because you knew nobody. I mean, we knew a couple.
You didn't.
We knew a
know
couple people, but didn't know. It's like moving to a new house, right? You're used to your house. You know where everything is. Well, you come here and I know nothing.
Huh.
So you kind of come here and you don't know how the routine is. You don't know anything. And you don't know how the racing is, and there's people that didn't like newcomers, like Jim Avajanis would be one of the guys. Me and him just didn't. I mean, now we're really good friends, but he'll tell you, he goes, I didn't like you. And he didn't even know why. He just didn't, because we were Riverside guys. Riverside guys were Riverside guys. They weren't supposed to come here. I mean, Fern did it.
Yep.
He was probably the only one, maybe, that ran both.
Mm-hmm.
So we came here, had a success, and that was the same year Doug Hobia moved up.
Yep. 7 wins over 2 years for you in the pro stocks here at this racetrack. You mentioned Doug Kobe. Talk about the competition in that division over the 2 years that you were here, because I remember some great battles with you and Doug and Jim and several others.
Malva Jonas and O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
There was the craziest thing is they threw that division out of here.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Okay, just sometimes you still got hard feelings about it, but
it's the beef that never dies.
It just never dies. But no, it was Doug was young, obviously coming. I didn't know Doug at all. I saw him race a late model a couple times coming here to watch, but I guess we had that competition against each other. We didn't like each other, I think, at the time, just because our sisters didn't like each other. That was back in the Checkered Chatter.
Yes.
Was it Checkered Chatter? It was like
Chatter.
the early Facebook days.
I mean,
my
message boards.
sister and his sister
if
would
you
just
think Twitter is bad,
it was
bad.
And my sister and his sister were just brutal.
He mentioned that when he came on the show.
It was just like, holy guys, and here I am in the back. Kim, shush. And she would just keep typing or whatever it was. Yeah, it was. But we had some awesome battles, clean.
Yep.
Never, ever will I say we ever touched doors or he was very fast. He was the first year I'd say definitely faster than I was. Second year I'd say I was faster than he was. So it was a pretty good competition, no doubt.
And then the meeting in this hall. I believe it was in this hall. What was that night like for – I remember being in the tower watching everybody.
Well, I want to go before we go there.
All right,
we're jumping. We're flying through the story.
I mean, we can talk all day.
I got 4 hours of just talking about pro stock days.
There was a bad crash that you had in one that a lot of people don't really know about. You were airlifted out of this place.
Well, I was lifted out of
Johnson. Well, you were hurting.
Well, I wasn't hurting because I don't remember. I don't remember any of it.
You were bagged up. Talk about that and talk about how. I mean, those cars were insanely fast.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to say dangerous, but they were dangerous. People were injured. I mean, a lot of the injuries that occurred were in that division in that time.
Well, I think I don't think the cars were unsafe because they're actually probably what today's cars are, if not stronger. I mean, the pro stocks and the late models of today are paper thin cars. Those cars were strong. They were real cars. But what happened was the seat innovation. The seats have – if I had the seat I have today, I would have put my window net out and walked away.
Yeah.
Because what happened, my head hit I had no headrest, so my helmet hit the halo bar or the blue bar or whatever you want to call it over there. And
I don't remember.
I don't remember anything till I think I woke up in the helicopter.
Jeez.
For about 5 minutes. I remember them cutting my brand new fire suit off me. I was like, don't you know it has a zipper? And they were just cutting right by the zipper.
That's how you don't remember anything?
No, not till. I mean, I remember like I said, I don't remember the wreck here at all.
Wow.
Not at all.
And that's down in the first
Which
turn.
was unfortunate because we had the car that got killed was a brand new car we built the second year to come here. We were going to build. That's how Larry was, the guy that owned the car. Everything had to be better all the time, which it sounds like a great thing, right? Guy always wants to buy. But it gets like you had something that was good. And he had it. Well, sometimes you can't make better.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we had this old car, the old car, 1-year-old car, that we practiced here in the Sizzler, and it was super fast. But we had to park that car because it wasn't the better car. Okay. So we ran the other car, and it struggled. Like, it just didn't have speed. So that night, we had found that the timing had been off like 10 degrees. So we fixed it in that heat race. I think it was a heat race or a feature. We fixed it right before that.
Crashed.
And that was the night we killed that car. Car done. Threw it right in the dumpster. Whole car.
Jeez.
So, yeah, I cleared myself, which something I'll never do ever again. Well, I've done it, but not
I mean, I think I've seen it.
maybe a couple of times, but never like that. Those cars were, we had no spot mirrors. We, and I missed them by inches, and it just hooked me left, and it hit me driver's side straight into the pit stands, which is before the first set of pit stands. I think somebody hit there this year, isn't that right? Didn't somebody hit there this year in a tour car maybe or something?
Maybe,
But anyways,
that's the worst.
But the
that's
seat
a bad spot to hit.
They had no head supports back then.
You take a look at some of those old cars. I mean, not old. That's not even that long. I guess it is it's 20 years ago now. But those seats, I don't understand how guys didn't think to put on the headrest.
Didn't have them. I had a headrest. I had them on both sides, but they were paper thin. They were just something to keep your head from falling over, not to support it. Nobody had them. And then they started kind of going, I think it was
bigger.
Which the craziest thing is that night, it was the same night Adam Petty got killed at Loud.
Really?
Yeah, I remember talking about it. I remember talking about it, signing into the ticket booth. I think it was Adam Petty got killed that night. So I remember.
Wow. That is eerie.
And then I woke up. I remember waking up in the hospital. And I was, luckily, thank God I went home that next day.
Did you ever think, like, man, I shouldn't be doing this? Or was it like.
Okay. No, I was ready to go. I knew we had another car. We had a better car at home.
It was
like we had the good car at home. So I came back.
The next week?
Well, I was going to come back the next week, but it rained out.
Good. Rest
God.
Your brain.
I was going home taking naps. Like, it was great. I was like a little kid. I had to go home take naps at 12 because, concussions are no joke. So we got rained out, and I came back the next week with the bad car, and we won.
Wow.
And I shouldn't have been in it that night either. I remember racing Jimmy Banfield, and he was like passing me on the outside, and I just couldn't. I remember I couldn't do anything. My mind, like the car, I was doing laps, but I couldn't overdrive it. I remember I couldn't do anything, and I ended up getting by him. He didn't pass me, but I remember going, man, oh man, should I not be in this thing? And luckily, the car won that night. It wasn't me. So, yeah, and then we kept going good after that.
All right, now we can jump in.
So now we can go back to the hall.
I'll set the scene for some of the listeners here. Well, the Pro Stocks it was the fourth division, I believe. I think they just brought in the Dare Stocks back. So there was Pro Stocks, SKs,
and
late models, and the Street Stocks or Dare Stocks at the time.
Yep.
And my grandfather decided it's time for those cars to go. We don't really know, don't really know why, there was some reasoning, but there was a strong division at the time, very strong. Yeah. It was kind of the car of the region. A lot of, almost the country, everyone kind of was something around the Pro Stocks. And my father had to kind of to break the news. He was the one who had to carry that.
Well, your father actually had to. And we can go back on later on. I can tell when I came back here, your father and your mom were at a picnic, and your father had to flat out look at me in the eyes and say, "Nope, I think the Pro Stocks are coming back," and he knew that they weren't. And I remember to this day, it bothers him because he knew he had to. At that point, he had to not lie, but he couldn't tell me. Yeah. So, and I don't think it was 100%. I think it was 95%.
Right.
Your grandfather was dead set against them. And I think it was just one, I think he wanted his SKs to be the premier. And there was drama up and down. Every week you look at the races and the drama was the Pro Stocks. The SKs were all crashing. That was what they did every week. Let's face it, that's what SKs did back then. They crashed.
And there was so many of
them.
And
we crashed some and it would look worse because the body would go flying, but it really wasn't that bad. It was you really didn't, tear them up too bad. So the rumors were going around for a while, probably the whole year. Mm-hmm. And we got called up to this room here, which is the barn or whatever you guys call it. Clubhouse. And got told that we weren't coming back the next year.
One of the more probably intense nights I ever remember at this racetrack is when the field of Pro Stock owners and drivers left this building.
It was – because I had been at Riverside the night it closed.
Yeah.
which was when I tell you an eerie night, like people were with their bare hands peeling up the start-finish line.
Yeah.
Like you remember people walking around there just crying.
Wow.
Like you just know that you're never going to see this place again.
It's sad.
It was I
just put myself, if this place ever was like that, that'd be awful.
And that's what people don't understand. They can sit there and they can bash racing, and they may not like what racetracks are doing, and they may not like the rules, and they may not like this and that. But the more you bash people on this social media and things like that, the more these racetracks are never coming back. So you can bash them all day long, but racetracks close, they're
gone.
Yeah. I don't think Teddy Hubert's ever going to get his new Riverside Park built. I mean, we all went there. We took the stands down, and we did all that because we had hope.
Right.
Wait, is there somebody who was trying to build a new Riverside Park?
Yeah, Teddy Hebert from Teddy Bear Pools. We all went there, and not all of us, but a lot of people volunteered their time. They had said we could go take the grandstands, and they could trail them away. And they were hoping to build another track in wherever they could find. But what town in this world is going to let a racetrack be built?
I don't know anyone crazy enough to build a racetrack, period.
Well, to build one, yeah.
I mean,
or
it's
to
insane.
be in that business. I mean,
that's
or
also
to leave their job to come work at a racetrack.
Also
I mean, are you
pretty
insane?
dumb. So the pro stocks are gone in Stafford at the end of that season.
Which, again, I had a brand new race car built that had never saw this place yet. And we just finished it. So now not only do I have one car for here, now I have two, which Stafford tends to make rules that cars can only run here.
Well,
back in the day.
I mean,
back in the day, we had stocks now,
Sure.
pro stocks. Nobody had stocks now. I mean, stock A-frame cars. That was Thompson and all the places up north were building cars that were like the newer today's version.
Mm-hmm.
So we all left that night, left the meeting, and I remember, going back to Butch Shea from Chaz. I mean, he had 15 cars here. That was keeping him in business. So basically, it was not only are we not going to be able to race here, which sucked for a lot of us, but it actually was like a knife, the knife in his coffin kind of. It was. So it's not, so here you are, you're one of your closest friends. You just kind of put them out of business. So, so going back to the Doug Colby conversation, I was going to do I'm going to go help my friend Butch, and we're going to, screw this place. Screw Stafford Speedway. We don't need them. I'm going to go run Monadnock, and I'm going to run Thompson. Great. Doug Colby says, you know what, I'm staying here. Look at where Doug Colby is and where I am. Not that I'm Doug Colby, but we were at that time, we were probably pretty equal as far as our success in that division. So I probably, if I had to do over again, I would have built an SK and stayed here.
And Doug talked about it a lot in his podcast too. And I mean, I wasn't involved in it. I mean, my father really didn't even have the opportunity to say no to that. So it was kind of just something that happened. So it is what it is. But I mean, he kind of put that into becoming a modified guy just by that chance, right? Does Doug Colby even become a 6-time champion if the pro stocks
And again,
survive?
all of us, whether it be Keith Rocco or myself or anybody, has to have the right situation fall into place.
Yeah, it's
if
always
Keith
true,
Rocco
yeah.
didn't meet the Poulians because he worked at Pettit's, does he ever get an opportunity to drive an SK? Probably not. My situation, if I didn't have Cooker come on board when I was, my father passed away when I was 19. If Cooker didn't come on and give me a check for $200 one day in a coffee shop, am I where I'm at? So those things that happen in life, you never know.
It's true.
It's just, and you always got to be nice to everybody you talk to, or you try to be anyways.
Yeah.
And never know what that next, you never know who you're talking to.
Just don't be a jerk, right?
And sometimes people look at your face expression and think you're a jerk, but that comes with it.
So you left Stafford.
Yeah.
For how many seasons?
You probably know more. 3, I think.
You
think
started here in the SKs in 2002.
Well, for the fall
Part-time.
final, I came back.
It was part. Yeah.
So for me, 2 years I left.
So
and we had success. We went to Thompson. We won races there. We went to Monadnock. We won races there.
So why'd you come back is the question.
Brad Heitella and Linda Heitella, who own Reliable, had decided that Brad was going to probably give up racing soon, and they wanted to still have a car in the at the racetrack. They sell parts still, and I remember going to Reliable to buy a piece of tubing, and we were in the back, and Brad said, "Well, what do you think about trying one of our SKs?" So it was kind of what happens is when you're from a small town like Summers, everybody's saying, how'd you do last night? Oh, it was great. We saw you race Stafford. It was great. We were there last night. What happens? You go race Thompson in New Hampshire. People ask you, are you still racing?
Yep.
So it was kind of, I knew I had to come back. Like it was kind of like, you know, you had to decide that as much as you didn't want to, you had to come back here. Because at that point, we hated SKs. Like I was.
Why is that?
Because we had pro stocks. It was just they had to fight between themselves.
Yeah.
It wasn't even the people. So it was, I think, 3 races before the fall final in that year, and we came and we tried it. And I didn't qualify for 2 races. The first 2 races, I qualified for the 3rd race I tried, but there was 55 SKs here trying to qualify.
That was
some
crazy times.
45 good cars.
Yeah.
It wasn't like there were, 5 good cars. And we finally got in, and that's kind of how the relationship started. And we decided to try it. You know, Brad was looking for a guy that would build them with him, not just somebody to show up and drive. He wanted somebody to, you know, help weld them together and build Nerf bars and build the snouts and do all that kind of stuff. So,
had you ever driven a modified before that?
I drove one at Riverside, open type car. I think my last year there, but it was a back marker kind of car.
What'd you think? Like,
they were fun, but it was a back marker kind of car.
Okay.
So I didn't get a really good feel for it because the motor was way down. It was just something to drive. I didn't get the really good feeling that it was something I really wanted to do, or I probably would have pursued it. And then when I came here and didn't qualify, which I had never qualified, like I had never gone to a race and not qualified, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
it's got to get you down. I mean, I've never been in a field where I haven't qualified. I don't think
it's sickening.
It's got to hurt.
I hate showing up to a race, and like even the tri-track race this year. I mean, we showed up. There's 50 cars.
Yeah.
That's you may not make it in.
I mean, there's been some SK races this year where David is looking in the console, using the console like 3 times this year. And I go over to his car, and he's like, he looks just blue. He's like,
wow, he looks like that all the time.
I'm not going to get in. I'm not going to get. I'm like, dude, you're going to get in the race. Just drive like you drive. So I can't even.
Oh, you knew he had a provisional
promoter's option.
No, there's no.
No, I don't even mean it like that. I meant he had a provisional, knowing he was higher up in points.
Oh, here we go. Twitter, checker chatter is going to be hot tonight.
Oh yeah.
But you talk about the early days of the SK. You've admitted in the past the transition wasn't easy for you from the pro stock to the SKs, and those first few seasons were tough.
Well, I think the first season was
at least the first one, yeah.
We still had some really good. We had some good runs. We were getting the hang of it, and we were, I don't know. I finished 8th. I think my rookie year or something.
Well, you were the 2003 Rookie of the Year, which is
just because Savali was either check or a record. Man, he was fast.
Basically, you were the same season as Savali.
I was, and he would go and he'd win races, and he would just be crazy, like insane. And I
What's
would
his
just
nickname?
I would just tootle around the back or whatever and finish 8th or 9th or 10th, and I finished every week. So that's how it worked out for me. But and then we started getting better and better, and then we ended up building a new car. I wanted to build a new car. At that point I had never built a new car I wouldn't say myself because I would a lot of help from Brad, but I wanted to be part of a reliable car by doing it ourselves. So we built a brand new car there.
And that's something to talk about.
And I think that's 2004.
Yeah, and you get your first victory in
that year.
05.
Okay, it may have been 05 that I built that car then. I think it was that year. And that is actually the SK Light that Debus runs now.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yep.
The car that was built in 05. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to see those cars. I mean, that's the best part about the SK
Not many
Lights.
pieces of tubing left from that car, but originally that's what that car
the same year he was born, I think.
Probably.
So I want to talk about that first SK win because you hadn't been at Stafford. You were pissed at Stafford. You hate the SK Modifieds for all these years, and then you get a victory. Do you get into victory lane and say, "Hey, Jack"?
Easy.
Nah. I had respect for your grandfather. He I guess probably back younger, I didn't. But he made the business choice that he thought was the best for the Speedway. Mm-hmm. And how can listen, things happen for reasons. And, I definitely know you guys a lot more than I knew Jack. I didn't know your grandfather close like that. But, he did what he wanted to do, right? He always did what he wanted to do.
I mean, he threw the Modifieds out, too. People are still mad about that.
But I do remember
4 years ago.
And I will remember your father. So after that whole story about the pro stocks, so remember talking. He met me the fall final weekend that I came in, the first year I came back, and we qualified. It was like that Sunday morning, and your father, believe it or not, was out in the parking lot. Shocker. Yeah.
I've never seen him out there.
I know. And he met me at the gate. I was walking in, and he stopped me, and he said he just wanted to let me know that he was real happy that I was back because you guys, I wasn't what they wanted to lose. So there were some people in the pro stocks that weren't good for racing in general. Neither mind, any division. Yeah. But there was a couple names, one or two particular, that probably caused the demise.
Okay.
It was drama every week, and it was the same guys. So it was very nice that your father said that you as a family, but I didn't really know you or David yet, but that he was happy that I was back. So that was cool.
And so to get the victory, is that like kind of a big milestone for you? Like, was it big for you?
I would say it was probably like winning my first race ever.
Really?
It was. I mean, you win at Stafford. You won at
in a modified.
In a modified. In anything. I don't care if you win a dare stock race here.
Well, yeah, but like when you get to when you win in a modified, it must have a little. I've never won a modified, so I don't know.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's we didn't have the SK lights back then, so there was no learning curve to come here, and back then, I mean, you had, Ronnie Silk was here, and there was 10 or 12 great guys. Ted was here every week, which he was just always in your mirror all the time.
That was a crazy group of drivers back then. Bo Gunnings and the Megs and
then Blewett. Blewett was here. I think I don't know if it was that year or not, but I mean, and then it was Donnie Leah tried coming here. I mean, you look at what happens.
Zeggedy here? Was that?
I think
Zeggedy
he had
moved on by then.
Broderick, Jimmy Broderick.
Nope, that was before me. But there was guys at the 57, right? It was the Whisk car.
Yeah.
Donnie Leah tried running it.
Silk was in that for a while, right?
No, I'm trying to think.
It was the white.
But there was some really good tour guys that tried to come
here. Jerry
Marquis, but that was before me.
Before you, yeah.
But they kept trying to come here and race, and they had no success, and they left. So guys would come in, and we're going to come here and do great, and they didn't, and they left. So this is a mentally challenging division.
I mean, I bet you have. I mean, I almost can say a tour guy now couldn't come into Stafford SKs and have immediate success.
No,
it's so
different. It's just different. It's different style. You're on the chip. You're on the chip for 40 laps. You cannot have an easy lap. Where the tour, I mean, run the open shows, it's a different deal. You're on it,
but you can ride a little
race,
bit.
and hopefully you still have a tire left. And that's why at the end of the race, you see who has tires and who doesn't. It doesn't mean that they can drive or they can't drive. It just means who has tire left. Where SKs, everybody has the same equipment.
It's unbelievable.
In the race is unbelievable. 5 horsepower. Everybody's got the same. You look at the division. We all got the same shocks. We all got.
And it wrecks the whole field. That's what's crazy to me when you guys have those starts. 5 laps, right? 2x2, 10 rows deep. If the guy first, third, fifth messes up, has a mistake, say goodbye to the whole field. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, those restarts sometimes they even cost you championships. Sometimes.
I mean, who'd have thunk it?
Who'd have thought? That was the same guy.
We're talking about 2005. Speaking of championship runs, is that the first year that you were in the run for the championship?
I
going into the final race,
to Ted, right? Or did Lloyd win it that year?
2004, 2005, you were second. So
2004, I believe I finished second to Ted.
And then
just
Lloyd
because
Agor.
I think I was consistent, I finished a lot. The second year, again, we finished a lot, but had a couple wins, I think. And we were in the mix, and all I had to do was pretty much start the race. I had to, I think I had to finish 14th or 12th or whatever. And Lloyd Agor, maybe it was, what was it? We were within 2 points. I can't even remember, but I was in the perfect position to win it on the last restart, and my tranny broke. All I had to do was finish.
New transmission broke.
Jeez. With a tranny that Stafford went to, the Richmond tranny, instead of the Jericho at the time, because it was going to save us money. So the dog ring, they ended up having a problem with the dog rings, which is the part in the tranny when you shift. And we had changed that dog ring because we knew there was a problem, and I never shifted it. That was the second time I shifted that tranny all weekend.
And it broke. And he lost the title.
Had no nothing. No, it was like nothing. It had no gear. So I lost it. It was like I'm just made to be second. I mean, if you go back in my racing career, I am the Harry Gant of auto racing. Like, I finished second.
I mean, I just look at last season, 2019. I mean,
I didn't even finish. I just tied.
We'll go there. I mean, we'll keep going to get there because, I mean, I wanted to have you on the podcast last season, but I wanted you to win the title to come on as a champion, but it just didn't happen. Well, 05, 06, 2 good seasons, get a bunch of victories, and then you kind of fall off the stat sheet here. You don't get a win again until 2012, and then a win again until 2016. There's a slump there. I mean, you got to ask, what happened?
Well, I lost focus. My life definitely took a downhill spiral, and when I say that, my personal life was going down. I lost my sister, so now I lost my father and my sister, and just dealing with a lot of personal stuff. And my focus wasn't on what it should have been. Racing was probably 4th on my list. I was doing it because I didn't know what else to do. And what happens is, I had a depression issue going on because of what was happening in my life. And what I used to fix the depression part was I would drink more. In auto racing, you know what? Everybody drinks, right? Or not everybody, but you have beers with your buddies, and you're getting around. And it just started to be where that was probably more important than doing good on a racetrack, if that makes any sense. So I had a lot. I'd say I have 5 years of just lost years that I struggled with myself. So not only do you have to have your car right, but the driver's got to be right also. And I was in a bad spot, like bad. And I just woke up one day and said, that's enough of that.
Wow.
And if you look at my record, like my stats, that's when I started doing good again. So, I was talking before, everyone has their different things. Some people like to drink. Some people like to smoke cigarettes. Some people like to drink 12 coffees a day. So me, I like everything I like, I want more of. I can't have one race car. I got to have 4. I can't have one beer. I got to have 12.
Yeah.
So I think it's 6 years ago now or 5 years. I said that was it. I haven't touched one since.
Wow.
And my life, it's like a graph. Goes like this, this, and now it's just going back uphill. And for me, it's I'm so happy I made that decision. I joke about it all the time. It's like now I couldn't afford to race one car back then, and now I have 4. And I make the same paycheck at work. So you tell me the difference. You know what I mean? People don't realize.
Wow.
You don't go out to dinner. We go out to dinner now, it's $25.
Yeah.
Well, before it was $75 because, the $4 a beer charge on top or $5, and that's just how it works. So not that it's, some people can drink 1 or 2 and stop. I'm dropping a hammer, man. I'm restarting. We're going. If we,
it's all or nothing.
Yeah,
it's
and I'm fortunate enough that I didn't hurt anybody else. I didn't hurt
Yourself.
myself.
Yeah.
I mean, we all do stupid stuff in life, and I did a lot of stupid stuff. So I tell my story because hopefully it helps other people focus on what you need to. I mean, you're on a racetrack. You got to be focused. So.
I mean, I think a lot of people are going to appreciate that story. I mean, it's pretty incredible. What pulled you? Like, what pulled you out of it? What was the thing that got you? Like, I got to stop doing this. I want to focus on.
Well,
something
I was
else.
at the point that it was gonna be bad.
Really?
Like it was. Anybody that's dealt with anything with depression, I was so depressed that I would even have a hard time getting out of bed to go to work. Like I was at a point. It was in the wintertime. It was like at the end of race season, so it wasn't during. So I had
That's
nothing.
the toughest time.
It is the toughest time, and I had nothing to really. My racing sucked. My personal life was sucking. Mm-hmm. Things weren't going my way, and it's just like it's always everybody else's fault, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's everybody else's fault. Well, once I quit drinking, the people that I was fighting with all the time, we haven't had a fight since. I mean, I was, obviously Brian's mom, Brian Nuducci's mom, was with me. People don't even know it for like the last 10 years, but she just saw a person that she knew that needed help, and she had to leave me. Like not leave, I wouldn't say leave me, but she had to let me get myself straight, and probably the best thing that ever happened because it was kind of everything that was happening. Everything wasn't going good. Like people, like friends weren't really coming around as much. People saw. You know, it's funny now. I can, you know, have people, I had a couple of beers, but you couldn't tell.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Okay. You know what I mean? I can tell if people have one beer because it just shows. So, you know, without going into detail of everything, it was just I woke up one day and it was I got a phone call. It was probably around my birthday, I think it was, around November, same time. And I got a phone call from my sponsor's grandkids, which they call me Uncle Todd. They're like, you know, my niece and nephews, but they're not real family, but they are. Mm-hmm. They don't, you know, they don't know any different. And these are 5 or 6 year old kids that were scared for me. They just told me that, you know, they don't know this story. This is probably the first time they're hearing it. I still had the voicemail from them.
Really?
That just is a voicemail saying that they just wanted to let me know they love me and that they love me and they wanted to make sure I was okay. So I remember hearing this voicemail, and I'm like, these are 5-year-old kids. You're supposed to worry about kids. Mm-hmm. Not kids worry about you. And that was it. That was never going to happen again.
So what's
coming? It kind of gets me kind of like, it kind of gets me kind of emotional kind of, because that's, people don't really know this. I mean, I can remember it being like sitting watching TV, being so down, people calling me, worried about me. I couldn't go to work that day, and just, that's it.
Wow.
No more. And I have not touched one since and have no interest in it. You go to my fridge in my shop, it's got beer in it, because my guys can have one.
Yeah.
Why I can't have one, they can't.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna go over why they're having one, and I'm gonna work on my car, and I'm gonna make it faster for next week. So that's, you know, and that's what gives me. Thank God I have that. I have that devotion to do better. And since I've done that, now your friends come back around. Right now, people that care about you, that want to help you, come around. Mm-hmm. So again, everything's just, you know, believe it or not, me and Missy haven't had we never even fought, but we get along great. We never had a discussion since.
Yeah.
Things have gone perfect. So it's like, what happens? Well, she didn't change. I changed, you know, in my racing. As much as I'd have a top 10, I'd be happy. And I was settling for that. Like, that was what I was settling for. So, getting away from that story, because it's kind of boring.
I mean, well, I just want to appreciate sharing that with all the listeners and us.
No, it's and honestly, people talk. I talk it out. I walk over, and after the races, if somebody's having, you know, I walk over, and Keith was having a celebration beer after he won the championship, and I went and congratulated him after I just spun him out. And I said, "Oh, you're having a beer?" He goes, "Yeah, you want one?" Which he knows I don't drink, so he's kind of busting my. I said, "Nah, I'm just gonna get in my truck and have a seltzer." You know what I mean? That's what I always have. Anybody knows Todd has a seltzer. I can put him back after the races. I can put one down after another, but you wake up next morning.
Those polars are ice cold.
You wake up next morning, you don't have a single hangover or nothing.
So
good.
You turn it around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
so and the story goes, we're still struggling.
Yeah.
So now the
car's struggling.
We're still struggling. So Butchie, who basically had to go get a real job, he works at Hamilton Standard now, hadn't come to races. He had kind of left, so it's kind of like anything else. Somebody keeps knocking you down, right? You're just going to leave.
Yeah, just leave.
So he was kind of still my advisor, because I was doing it with Brad and Linda, and he was still helping me on the side. He'd answer my questions, and because my car wasn't kept at Reliable, it was kept at my house. So it was kind of like we were separate teams, but we were the same team, you know. And he came here one Friday night just to help Les Hinckley, because he was running an MRS race, and he was kind of putting his feet back into it a little bit, you know, like a drug addict kind of. You don't want to come back around it because it's going to suck you back in, right?
Yeah.
So he calls me up on Saturday morning, you know, and he says, "I got to tell you," he says, "you're no Kyle Busch." He said, "but you do not suck that bad."
Huh.
He says, "I'll be over." And that's how it got. He came over, and we ended up cutting some stuff off and trying some different stuff that car had. And we came back here next week, and we were P1 in practice, and we're right in the top 5. It was instantly.
What is this, 20?
I don't
even
even know.
Years? Was it? Because there was a stretch there where you were getting better, but you just couldn't crack.
Yeah, we didn't win. I don't even remember what year it was. It was probably the year before I won a race again. So that was at the end of the year. I think it was probably 3 more races to go. And I had this crazy notion to go to Waterford because I had never been there, or with a SK. And I destroyed that car again. Not destroyed it. So we had talked about putting a front clip on that car and redoing it. So it was going pretty good. So I said, well, why are we going to cut this car apart? We'll just keep working with it. And then when I knocked the clip off it at Waterford, racing my brother-in-law, we had no choice. It was time. It was time to make a change. So I had to go tell Brad Linda that I was going to do something else. Leave the, which they, at the time I think we both. No breakup is easy, right? Mm-hmm. No, they were great to me. They were like family. They gave me their heart and soul. They gave me everything I needed to race. They helped me out. But sometimes you got to make a decision that it might hurt somebody. It might hurt somebody's feelings. So we did that, and then we ended up cutting my SK all apart that winter. We put a new snout on it, different snout. Every single bar on it, basically, it was just my Sawzall was crazy because it was just like everything we went to cut, we just cut more, and we should have just started over at that time. But that's how it started. That's how the whole building cars in my shop thing started.
Is this the period of time where you go back to your 81?
It was.
I think I remember a quote. It's like, I need to get back to my identity, my 81.
Yeah, it was that time was me. The 81 was what I felt was something I had success with my whole racing career. So it was just something that felt like I had control. And not that Brad and Linda didn't give me their control, because they did. They let me have full reins of whatever I wanted to do.
Yep.
But it just wasn't my deal. And this kind of made me feel like it was my situation. And I bet you Butch, if you ask him now, he's regret the decision of coming to help me.
I don't know.
Because he says, I do not want to be in the race car business.
So you finally get back to Victory Lane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to feel amazing.
It was I kind of felt like I was back to where I needed to be.
Was it like a moment where you're like, wow, that was actually all those things, like me doing,
it was back to not only my racing, but it was my social. It was like I had beat, not only did my race cars are going fast again, that I'm going fast again. Like, I'm where I needed to be. I lost a whole bunch. I went to the gym. I lost a whole bunch of weight. Everything was going great, So and ever since then it's been going, it just keeps going, and then I went on didn't I go on a little streak where I didn't win again for a while?
Yeah, it was a solid 3 years, but.
solid 3 years, yeah.
2.5. But I want to jump to your last two seasons. You've had, 8 victories, I believe. You had, or 7. 4 in 2019. You missed the title on a tiebreaker, which was a heartbreaker for.
Especially since you won the last race, right? If memory serves me right, you're in victory lane.
Won the practice.
That's how close SKs are right there. Yeah. That
and
sums
it was
up.
only up until now. Brian Narducci's my spotter. All right, that year he had been, and I heard it in his voice, so I know he was coming. And he was very positive. Everything was great up until the last 3 laps, and then I'm like, Ronnie just passed for the right spot. Like I knew it, and he wasn't telling me it, but I could tell by his tone.
Yep.
And it's like, man, what am I gonna do? I won the race. I did what I had to do, and I can't. I'm gonna take that year, and it was. I had one race where it didn't work out my way. Yeah. One race.
That's all it takes when you have a full field of cars every single Friday night. You come in dead last, you get 2 points.
2 points.
2.
Yep. And I was 40. Yeah. I think I was 42 points ahead at that point, and and then I left there down 2. Or something like that.
It's a whole race. Yeah.
It's just like in 2020, Alex Pearl up 90 points.
Yeah. 118 points swing in 3 weeks.
Brian was up like 100.
Really, the same thing.
The year before when
that
Marcello
just shows how close the racing is here. It's just
you got to finish.
You can't replicate. Finish. There's no gimmick here. Right? There's no gimmick because you don't need it. You got to race hard, get the wins, finish.
Yeah. And even this year was a great year. I just again had a couple bad nights. It's just you got to finish. Keith had a great year this year. He finished pretty much, I think, all of them. I think, and he was fast and he won some. No, but I don't listen. I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. I'll probably finish second and be okay with it because I know my car's in one piece. I can go home and probably work on everybody else's cars. My mindset isn't going to go, checker a record kind of feel. And some other people have that ability to drive like that. I don't. I never had that. Not that I'm saying it's right or wrong. Sometimes I got too much going on, and I know what a second or a win going for a spot that probably isn't there. That's just not me.
Not worth it, yeah.
Nah.
How special was the night this year? You won the TC13. You won the feature. I felt like I talked to you 4 times that night on the PA.
Yeah.
Where does that kind of stack up in your career? A big night for you here at Stafford.
It was. I mean, that car that night was awesome. Every night, everyone's, in your racing career, you can probably pick 10 times or 5 times or whatever that your car is that good.
Yep.
And that car was that good that night. Same spring, shocks, everything that we bring every week. I don't know why it hit that night. And it was definitely, we had finished second the first 2 TC races. So I was kind of like, I felt like I would like to have that trophy. Obviously we all have respect for TC and what he's done for the sport or what he did for the sport. And, just people didn't know him as a person. He was a caring person. Mm-hmm. Whether he drive you insane on the track. And, I mean, he's probably the only one I ever did something to after a checker flag because he pissed me off so bad in the heat race. And he bit his tongue, and I remember he was so pissed because he bit his tongue. I smashed him after heat race because back in the early days, he would beat your back bumper when he didn't even need to. Yeah. Like, Ted, why are you doing that? Yeah. Just drive by me. But he had matured at the, I would say at the, his end of his racing career, he definitely changed. And I remember going back to the drinking thing. I remember telling him my story, and he was like, he said, "I'm proud of you." Like and that's Ted. He wanted to hear your story. And then when I won that race that night, Quinn came up to me, and she said, Ted used to talk about you all the time in your story. So it made me feel like he listened to what I talked. Anyways, he would never sometimes make you think he did, but he did listen.
Wow. I mean, a lot of deep conversation here. I love it on the podcast. So 2021.
Yeah.
Is the goal championship or bust here, or is it just keep doing your thing? I mean, because second place, you've had 2 great seasons. I'd say the top driver, you, Ronnie, Keith, Mike, June. There's a handful of guys that are the favorites every week. Yeah. You're up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, is the goal you got to get that title?
I mean, I guess going back to looking at again my story is knowing that people think I am a top 5 guy here at Stafford Speedway, which is the toughest place in the country. Not that I'm settling for that, but that's a pretty awesome. Yeah. People, you have people talking, and your name is part of that now. Yeah. Which, if I don't win a championship, it is what it is. Yeah, when I tied Ronnie, I mean, it made me want to work harder. I mean, we work at our shop like nonstop to try to do better and to try to make our cars faster.
Let's talk about that too. So you have a lot of cars in that shop. You've helped a lot of younger guys. Talk to us about that program a little bit. The Chassis Pro name is back. I
kind of stole it. I guess
Butch and you are building cars.
Butch says Chassis Pro's dead. He said it died a long time ago.
There's a lot of cars that say otherwise.
I said I kind of stole it. I say, you have to have a name, right? Yeah. So when we were doing this, out of his respect, I did it for him because he's the knowledge behind it. So why doesn't he needs to get some of that respect, and that's what the name is, respect to him. So in a way, I have stole it. It's a fictional company because it's not even a company. It's just a hobby shop. We do, we help people on their race cars. So, but I always enjoyed. I look at my racing when I was younger, and we didn't talk much about it. But I was 19 when my dad died, and I had a lot of help from other people. I could never have continued racing without people that had come to me and help me. So now with whether it be Brian or Debus or your brother, I really enjoy helping them and helping them be get their car straight and doing the right things. And I get a lot of enjoyment because eventually I'm not going to not want to drive, but probably can drive to the top of my to the top of the line driver here. So I'm still going to want to be involved in this. And renting cars and doing that kind of thing and helping other people keeps me racing at the level I want to be at.
What's a Friday night look like for you? Because I know a lot of it happens during the week, but I feel like when we go down to your pit area here, your footprint gets, I don't want to say bigger every year, but bigger every year.
I'm fortunate enough that I helped David Arute. Yeah. His car's kept at my shop. So I think I'm able to get in an hour or so earlier, which is a pretty big deal for me because when I get here I try to get here an hour or so early just to get unloaded and set up. Because I do it, it's me and usually Missy or maybe one other person. And to get 3 cars unloaded out of one truck and get all the air hoses set up and jacks and the tires laid out and everything, I want to do that because, like we talked about, Stafford opens the gate at 3 o'clock. It's chaos until practice. So I need to get here early. So from the time we get unloading to the time I leave here, I don't stop. And my only time I get to relax is when I'm in my car.
Wow.
That is my sanctuary. Like, that's the place I can go out there and nobody can ask me anything. Nobody can, which I love that part of it too, but it's sometimes it's, I do race here too sometimes. It's like I do race here,
right.
But it's definitely special. And again, I wouldn't be able to do it without the help of Butch and Scooter and all the guys that help me on my team. It's them guys that make it possible.
So you've been in a modified at Stafford now for 15, no, even longer, than almost 20 seasons. How does the competition compare? I mean, the competition and the racing on track compare from your the early days in an SK back in 2003 when you didn't even qualify for a feature to today? It's obviously changed. Everything that changes in the sport all the time. But how has it changed, and how do those times compare?
Well, I guess, you talk to people, and if they want to pick a race to go watch, they say they want to come to Stafford and watch the SK races. Everybody. That goes down. You talk to tour guys, and they just want to come on Friday nights to watch the SK's race. The racing here is awesome. We're all out there going hard, but the racing is pretty clean. It really is. We get wrecks, and again, because you're going 120 miles an hour and you're inches away and you're open-wheel tires, you're going to have wrecks. But I say it's the best racing in my 20-something years of racing.
Really?
Where we're at right now.
Really?
Because, Keith's getting older. Not that he's old, but he's older. Ronnie's getting a little older. We're all getting mature. Everyone's getting more mature, right?
Yeah.
So, back in the early days of my racing career, there was no young kids. And they were just, rough. Them guys were rough.
Because they didn't have any laps.
They didn't know. That was SK racing back then. Those cars were just, I don't know.
Smash and crash.
It was smash and crash. I remember when we raced the Pro Stock at Thompson after we left here, when the SKs would go on the racetrack, we'd leave.
Yeah.
Because it was terrible racing.
Really?
It was crash. Or the year that Ted won every race, and it was fun to watch him go from last to first. That was cool. But other than that, it was just crash after crash after crash. And that gets tiring. People don't want to, crash here and there. People want to see. But, I know for competitors, I don't want to see crashes. I would like this. I know it's not great for fans sometimes, but to me, a 40-lap race, green and checker, is awesome. Because that means everyone in that field gave respect.
Yep.
And they're all coming back next week.
And that's the day, today's age, I bet how many cars ran every race? 14? 15 maybe?
This year, surprisingly, more than usual, probably because of the shorter season. But it's a challenge.
People choose, though. Yeah. Now they do other things. They, hey, we're going to come and race the earlier races, and they're going to maybe do the end ones. Because
it's hard.
In the summer, they might want to go to Hampton Beach, or they might want to do something else.
And it's just tough. It's just tough.
It's tough financially.
We were talking about the SKs a couple of days ago, and just about how it's just elite. You have to be the elite division of a weekly, in the sport, right? You got to be perfect to win.
Perfect.
To win 6 times like Keith did, you got to be above and beyond a perfect.
And he's just got racing against him. He's just got raw talent.
Yeah.
He's just, you go and you look at all his cars. They're all prepared the same. And we joke around about it. You know whose cars get worked on the least in our 2 shops? His and mine.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. That's what we signed up for this. And he just, he's obviously, won amazing amount of races, and but he's matured too. Because I think 5 years ago racing with him wasn't as much fun as it is now.
Right.
Now we line up side by side in a restart. It reminds me of the Colby days. Like, this is going to be fun.
It's going to be a show.
This is going to be a show. Because he's not going to come in and door slam you, or I may spin him by accident because my whatever. But it's just not going to be. It's not going to be blatant stuff.
Yeah.
And not that he ever did that. But when he was younger, he could be tough.
You talk about the younger kids coming in and how we didn't see that 20 years ago. Is the younger kids coming in now because of you, because of Keith, and being able to provide that guidance and setups? And I mean, we see Keith's pit area also expanding, each and every year. We see yours and all the teams that you're involved with. I mean, did you not? I don't think you had that 20 years ago.
You didn't have that. And going back to when I first started, you didn't have people you could just call up and get your car set up. Or
right.
It wasn't there. Nobody did that kind of stuff. It was all your friends or people that kind of knew or you struggled. And I remember I made shims out of wood, plywood back in the day. That was this kind of stuff that you did back then. Now, yeah, you can call up Keith and you can go and you get a brand new Troyer car and it's going to have the same 4 shocks and the same 4 springs he has. And you're going to go out there and you're going to be fast out of the box.
Yep.
The cars are going to be fast out of the box. Are drivable anyways, instead of having to struggle and go things out the lunch, And I think that's definitely the future is no kids have the desire to want to build race cars or to work on race cars.
They just want to get them and go.
Yep. They want to just drive and they want to enjoy. It's kind of like the iRacing world, but they want to do it in real life.
I think it becomes a balance of both. There's going to be some that still do it, like a Steven Kopsick.
Yeah,
who's pretty. He's a young guy, and or Chase, but then it's a lot. It's not many guys build cars anymore in any part of the sport, from dirt to asphalt. I mean, you can count on one hand how many guys build their own cars. It's so few.
I mean, it's you look at the Modified Tour, for example. I mean, everyone's got the same car.
Yeah.
The same motors. Why? Because one guy had it, the next guy had to have it.
Yeah.
Look at the Bowler car. It still goes fast. It's not like the rest of them.
Look Chassis Pro cars. It's the same thing, right?
They're not the same as everybody else's. There's a couple of different things, but basically they're all the same thing.
Yeah.
They're cages that are this big. What can you do with a modified? They're all basically the same.
Ends up being driver, setup, crew chief,
straight and square.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was taught from day one. Is
Straight
you got to
and
keep
square.
your car straight and square, and everything matters down to the nut that holds the valve cover on. That's important. So if you build your whole car like that, it makes a difference at the end. So all the little stuff makes a difference. But one thing I will say about the SKs is it's a mental, exhausting race.
And why is that? Just because you're just so close?
It's so close, and you're always got the guys coming to the back. The guys are going to the front. It's the same thing. You got to know the work, the money. So, I mean, just not so much the race, but to run a car. And I think you'll see, if you talk to Brian about it, he was dominant in the SK lights.
It was easy for him.
Easy. He had the car, he had the talent, he had everything. Moves up, going to be a car owner now, and do something that for a 19-year-old kid is a lot to ask. Legit.
Yeah, I mean, seriously,
not many 19-year-old kids, whether it be Brian or anybody else, is going to do that. And I think mentally, it was very challenging for him, and I don't think he enjoyed that part of it. So, it's not for everybody. Owning race cars is not for everybody.
Yeah. That's what I think is really cool about the sport, though. When there are kids who get into the sport, you learn everything from not only driving, not only the maintenance, not only the budgeting, how to find sponsors. I mean, you have to be able to put all the pieces together, or there's no point of doing it. Like, the majority of these kids that are in the pits, which is cool, are so mature for their age, the majority of them. But,
right.
I mean, it just teaches you to be –
But most of the drivers, the young kids, like the Teddy Hodgens and, say, the Mad Dog, Lil Pup and all them, their fathers are established people, and they're teaching them the right ways.
Yeah.
And they're teaching them the right.
I mean, it's so cool to see, though. It's so cool to see these kids grow up here.
Yeah. No
look
doubt.
at Ronnie Williams. He was in a go-kart.
Yep. I mean, people don't know your brother because he's not the guy who's going to go out and he's not going to talk to a million people.
Yeah.
Your brother. But people don't even realize he didn't even know how to change his oil when he started either with me. And I mean, and I'm the kind of the one that helped him get into modified racing.
Yeah.
Because I saw a car online, I knew they were talking about it, and then I helped him put his seat in his car, and he's never left. Because I enjoy working with him, and he's come from a guy that did not know anything to a guy now that sets his own car up. People they think it's kept at my shop, so they think I'm doing it for him. That's what people are going to assume. But
Silver
he does
Spoon.
his own car, Silver Spoon.
But I have a gold one. Though,
I've never ever seen
mine is gold.
Well,
His
of
is
course.
silver.
You are the older one, so of course. I've never seen a Stafford Speedway check come for anything he's ever bought. I've always seen a David Arute check. So, and he's learned every part of it. I mean, he can take the rear end out. He can take a rear end apart. He can take his motor out. He does everything. So to me, that's an awesome thing to watch from a kid that could never do anything. I don't mean anything, but you know what I'm saying as far as on car. Because I was the same way when I started. I didn't know how to change oil. I knew nothing. So now I can, when I'm, this car we just building for Chris Matthews is something I finished it up last night, and it's, man, I'm sitting back and looking at it going, that's pretty cool to take it from a pile of tubing to something.
It is cool. I think it's amazing.
And I'm excited to see I run up to the SK Light race to watch Debus and them guys go, because it's like, man, it's something that we made possible thanks to Butch and all that, and teaching me the right ways, and whether it be Chassis Pro or my name on it or whatever, it's something that we have that not many people have. It's pretty cool.
So this has been an amazing episode. I think this will be a fan favorite for sure. We'll cap off the show with a couple rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Like we kind of at least all the drivers we will ask these couple. Who is your toughest competitor you've ever had to race against?
I mean, not just because he said it, but I would think probably my days, Doug Colby was the fierce side-by-side restart kind of guy that was probably most fun, knowing it was going to be an awesome restart. But now that transpires to Keith, and even at the end, Ted was – when I had struggled the most, and this is going back obviously to the story one more time, when I struggled the most and I won my first race again after struggling for so long, the first guy next to me giving me thumbs up was Ted.
Wow.
And I remember that, and he was, I mean, like pumped up in the car for me. Like I remember his hand, not just he was pumped.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So that was pretty cool. So I mean, fierce competitors, when you race against guys with talent, like there's gonna be a lot of them. But I mean, I think the pro stock battle is pretty awesome.
Biggest career victory?
I won the Coors Light 100 here one year. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool.
That was a big one. It's always a big one.
It is
the
a big
100
one, 100 lapper. I never won it since you guys paid really good money. I finished second, of course.
A couple times. Well, either has Keith. I always get on him. He has yet to win the 5K as well. So
yeah, this year I thought I had it for sure.
Yeah.
It was so good, and then I thought for sure Chase would come back to me, and he just never did. But it's okay.
What's your favorite racetrack?
Stafford Speedway, of course.
Okay, wasn't there for a few years. So.
How about besides Stafford, is there a track that you like?
Honestly, I don't even remember what Riverside was like anymore because it's been so long.
Weird.
But
it's funny to say that.
It's like I remember it, but
yeah.
I remember. I do remember it, but I don't remember like how you ran it. You know what I mean? But I gotta say, Waterford is pretty awesome.
It's a perfect size track. It's a perfect
and there's
banking.
some really, really good racing there.
If you were to build a track today, you'd build a track that looks just like that in the size, in the length, the corners, the banking.
Yep.
I mean, I think the longer Stafford thing is the longer straightaway thing. Stafford is flat, so it's a whole different. I can't wait. Hopefully, I'm still racing long enough when you have to repave this place again.
I'm dreading that day.
When they paved this place in 2000, or I think it was 2000, right?
98, I think.
96.
96?
Was it 96? I mean, it was. Maybe you just paid the 96, so
97 was. I think it was around there. I'm pretty
whatever.
Sure.
So I mean, it was so fast. It was so
much
smooth.
grip.
It was awesome. So Thompson was too when they paved that place. That was crazy.
Is there a least favorite track?
Lee,
you just don't like it there.
I mean, I love the place when you have tires.
Yeah, it eats tires.
Man, when you lose tires, it's not fun. But I guess every place, if you have tires, is fun. This place is pretty awful when you run out of tires on open shows, too. It's just any kind of modified without tires.
You've driven a lot of cars as well over the career. Is there a favorite car? I know you're going to be biased to the current car. Is there a favorite time?
I would say now is probably the favorite. I mean, going back to the Pro Stock days at the park, I mean, it was pretty awesome racing there, too. I would say those were pretty cool days. But the racing now, I would say, is right up to the top. I mean, I would love to say I got to try a modified tour season or something like that, but just the money and I don't really have desire for it. I would love to drive one. Yeah, I love the open program that you guys have because it makes people like we can race cars, modified type or tour type races but with a smaller budget.
Yeah, it's why it's key to not do too many of those.
Yeah, I mean, this year kind of got to the point it was too many. And
4, I think, is a sweet spot for
one
those.
a month is perfect. You put your car, you bring it home, you put it
agree.
over in a corner, and you come back next month and you race it again. Especially for myself, because I come here those nights, it's chaos.
Yeah.
But then again, I love the nights when there's no heat races because it's a whole step that we don't even have to do.
Yeah.
Like I love the no qualifying thing that the Cup guys are doing. I think this is unleash us and race. So
That'd be something. But yeah, that was. We appreciate you coming on the show.
I appreciate having you. It's
hope you enjoyed it.
My mind goes all over the place because that's just how I am. And there's so many stories, and they've all been great times. Yes, there was some downtime with myself, but mostly racing, the friends and the relationships you meet. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I think you're a very important part of Stafford, and we look forward to down the road here. Hopefully a championship eventually, and we appreciate you coming on the show, and have a good off season, I guess.
All right, guys, you too. See
you at the Sizzler.
Sizzler.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, guys.